Hey everybody, it's Rob here. The PTR has ended a few days ago and I have been blasting on the PTR, and I have taken a lot of time to test all the builds and now also to collect my thoughts and collect a lot of feedback from you guys, the community, and just try to really keep it very compiled here. And this is the video at my sheet. I quickly want to share this with you. I'm also sharing this with Blizzard, and these are, this is mainly my opinion and the opinion partially of my community. So let me know in the comments what you think about these kind of things that we're going to go into. And yeah, let's get started. So first of all on the list, we have the itemization. This is the big change that's coming in Season 4, which is starting May 14th. So we still have 5 weeks until then. So first of all, I think, and let me actually showcase this in the game right now, the vendors should have a chance to, or in general, sell legendary items. The rare items, and this is another problem, are useless now basically after the rework. Like if you play the game for longer than a few hours, you don't want any rare items. Like you always want legendaries or uniques. So you can see like these rare items, these vendors here that you see in the town, they only sell blues and yellows. And right now they still have 4 stats, but on the PTR they only have 2 stats. So there is no reason you would ever want any of these items in the end game when you're in World Tier 4. Early on, okay. But then what is the reason that all these vendors even exist? It's like half the vendors. Like this guy is selling weapons, this guy is selling jewelry, and this guy is selling armor. Like all of these, I think, are completely useless unless they either always sell legendaries or have a small chance that there is a legendary in there. But yeah, that's the first point here. I think they should do something useful, basically. Next one here is when you are tempering. Bricking an item, I think, is a bad experience for most players. And some recipes actually have 5 different possible outcomes here. So I think it would be very cool to either get more chances or to have a way to kind of reset your tempering process where you add the affixes when you ran out of those 5 tries. So some people were saying like maybe on DG items you could pay Resplendent Spark for it. That might be a little bit too expensive. Maybe you pay some Forgotten Souls or something. But yeah, I think it would be pretty cool. I don't even have sparks right now, do I? Probably not. I think it would be pretty cool if you could like reset this stuff somehow. Then something that is a problem in the game in general, I think. Here the sparks. So maybe you could pay a spark for resetting the tempering. Or Forgotten Souls. Let me know in the comments, like what do you think would be cool. Veiled crystals have been a huge problem on the PTR. Everything was super expensive, especially imprinting items. And imprinting items, I was playing a lot of Barb, and obviously Barb has 4 weapons. And I think in order to just imprint all the items, like a 2-hander, check here, I think just imprinting an aspect on a 2-hander. So I think right now you can see here it costs 60 yellows. I think on the PTR it literally costs 80 yellows to imprint a single aspect to a weapon. And this is just some insane cost. And also the master working costs a lot of yellow materials. And there was just, with less items dropping in general, like there was just not enough veiled crystals. 150. Okay, that's insane, yeah. You can kind of see like there was just a lot of things that needed veiled crystals, and I think these need to come, either they need to drop more or the costs need to come way down throughout the entire game. And then something that is concerning me a bit with the itemization, I feel, and I don't know what you guys think, let me know in the comments, there is a lot more damage on Tuesdays stats coming into the game. We are having new stats, for example, on Barb. There's a new stat called Damage while Wrath of the Berserking is active. And I think this, or there was Damage while Warcry is active. But yeah, this is like kind of a weird stat. It's just additive damage that goes into the giant bucket. And, Damage while Wrath of the Berserking is active. Don't we already have Damage while Berserking? Like, why do we need, another confusing stat? Like we have there, you see, Damage while Berserking. Like, why do we need another stat called Damage while Wrath of the Berserking is active? I think it's just like, there's multiple more examples like this. I just think this is just all more damage on Tuesdays. I thought they wanted to remove this, not add more of it. So I'm hoping that they, remove this, condense this, something. Then next thing here is the animation it takes for the master working. It just takes super long. And if you've been on the PTR at all, it's also very frustrating, especially if you fail the master working. You can the animation even takes longer. There is a skip button, but the skip button doesn't really do much of anything. So I think if you press the skip button, it should completely skip any animation and not gripe you even more. When you are failing, the animation is even longer, like rubbing it in, you know, kind of that you actually failed. So I would love to see this changed. Then we have highlight greater affixes in the inventory and possibly even when dropping them on the ground. You guys remember how it looked in Diablo 3 when we found a primal item, like it had like a kind of like a red legendary beam rather than like a normal legendary beam. So I think like this kind of thing, like, I don't know, if we could add, you know, instead of like these kind of beams, like add for the greater affix, add a visual and maybe even a sound indication. You can see it. This is a normal legendary and this is a unique item, right? So these are already looking different. And then I think a greater rift, greater affix, one should be red or like, I don't know, some other color. And also something to highlight them in inventory, because you still have this inventory cluster. And whenever there's an item with a greater affix, you can't see it. So they should have a border or, I don't know, like a little star icon or something to like indicate them visually and to tell them apart, basically. The next one is uniques and uber uniques could use some higher and better stats. So I'm thinking, you know, with the tempering and master tempering process, a lot of the uber uniques and normal uniques become not really useful because you just have like way better alternatives now. And I think this is extremely prevalent on like helms that have cooldown. Like the base cooldown of like an unupgraded helm is 7 seconds. And this is going to stay like this, for example, on Godslayer, 7 seconds. But you know, the new helms already have an 8-second cooldown base. And you can imprint like an additional stat on them, and you also get the aspect. So yeah, they just have low stats, and uniques in general felt a bit underwhelming. Some suggestion here could be, and you don't have to do this, but this is just like, you know, a suggestion, that maybe we can temper one affix, so it also has 5 stats on those uniques. This is just like an idea. Like you could also just boost the stats so that the unique helms also roll with 8 cooldown instead of 7, just like a rare item now does. Next here, and this is more about the trading stuff. I know not everybody cares, but basically the biggest gold thing in the game, which is the enchanting. So if you enchant an item and you enchant it over like a certain value, like it just becomes like super insanely expensive. You can see here this kind of item that I have here. It's 30 million per enchant. So this is the biggest gold thing in the game now. Every time I click this, let me just click it here for good content. So minus 70 million. Oh, we click it again. Boom, minus 30 million. You see here, like my gold goes down like crazy just clicking this item. Like, you know, it just goes down a lot. And this thing is getting, thank God, it's getting capped to like, I think it's 3 million gold or something, right? So the capping is a really good thing. But what this will do, it'll basically create a gold inflation, I think. Now there is masterworking and there is, you know, the masterworking costs quite, like, I think it's like a couple 100,000 gold as well. So maybe it's not that big of an issue, but I think like the gold cost of the gold sink that the enchanting currently provides is way bigger. So I think we're going to see significant gold inflation. And on top of that, we have extremely rare items. With like, you know, 3 out of 3 greater affixes. I think items like this, especially popular items, will be worth way more than the current gold cap of 10 billion gold. So I'm not really sure how players are even supposed to trade these items. Like we have Diablo trade. We obviously don't want any real money trading. Like here you just trade items versus gold. But the problem with that is that you can see here, like I just randomly opened the page and you can see here there's already an item here for 10 billion gold. And there's going to be more items that are going to be like valued at well over 10 billion gold. So I'm not really sure like how Blizzard is expecting us to trade these kind of items. I think it's good that there's a cap because of duping and stuff, but I think the cap needs to be raised or the gold inflation needs to stop somehow. Like there needs to be like more gold things added to the game or something. So these items are gonna be probably worth, if you find like a, I don't know, like a 4 out of 4 like unique, or a 3 out of 3 like GG Barbarian 2-handed sword or mace or whatever, like 3 greater affixes, all the stats that you want, it's probably worth more than 10 billion gold. And I'm not sure how we're gonna trade this. I think it's just gonna encourage real money trading, or trading, you know, outside of the game, when this cap is not increased. Because if you have an item that's worth 50 billion gold, like how are you supposed to trade it? Like you can't. And then another thing I noticed is my last point on items. The Paragon node requirements, they feel too high. So in game, you do have these, you know, willpower or like different kind of stat requirements on your Paragon boards. So you see here 610 willpower, 630 dex. And I feel now with all stat being on, and you see here like I have a bit overkill right now, but usually you barely hit these kind of things, especially on classes that are not a Barb. You have this like all stat roll here on the items currently. And in the new patch, this thing is basically gone. Like only the Uber Uniques will have this. So there's no more all stat roll on regular items. And I felt on the PTR, I don't know if you share that sentiment, let me know. But I felt that I never was really able to reach about half my Paragon nodes requirements. I think there was a big problem, like, I don't know, on a Barb, like how am I supposed to get dex? You know, if I can't get all stat on my gear, I can't get dex. Like how do I get it? How am I supposed to, you know, reach this Paragon requirement? So I think with the all stats being gone and the game being rebalanced, I think these requirements need to come down by like 30%, 50%, something like that. Like there was definitely no all stats. So yeah, that's basically what I had for itemization. Then let's go into the end game. And I'm gonna try to, you know, keep it a bit more brief. So we have the pit. I'm not really sure what the design intent is here. I think, and we rewatched this on stream, like it was supposed to be, you know, something similar but better than Abattoir of Zir. So I think this really failed, at least as of the PTR, so I hope they will address this. This is what the PTR is for. Most builds, like, or every class, had a couple of builds that were absolutely speed farming the hardest content, which is tier 200, in about 2 minutes or less. And that was completely without the power of a seasonal theme. So remember guys, on top of all this power that we had on the PTR, we are also getting, whatever it's going to be, the season 4 theme. So we're going to get even stronger than what we were on the PTR. And I think this is going to cause some serious issues here. And for this speed runs, we already have the gauntlet. So I do not understand why there has to be like a cap at all in this systems. Like I think, yeah, of course, there should be a theoretical cap, but it should not be reachable by the players. Like the cap, the hardest content should not be, you know, possible to reach, or at least be like very, very hard, and not like just speed run it in 90 seconds. I've seen Sorcs doing 50 seconds tier 200 runs. So we already have Gauntlet for that, you know, like why do we need a second system that is just focused about speed? I was under the impression, and this is like kind of expectation management from Blizzard, that this is gonna be, you know, like the end game content, and they set this themselves similar to rifts in Diablo 4, in Diablo 3, Greater Rifts. You guys remember when Greater Rifts came out in Diablo 3? I think we were doing Greater Rift 30 or something, and there was 150 tiers of Greater Rifts, and the strongest builds were only doing like Greater Rift 60 or something, right? Nowadays, it's a completely different story because we had like 10 years of power creep. But when it came out, when Reaper of Souls released, the Rift, the Greater Rift system, was supposed to be not reachable, like the highest thing. And I think that was pretty good. Like having some hard endgame activities for the players that enjoy it, I think is a big value add for the game. And right now, the Gauntlet has missed that mark, and now we are making another system that is speed focused, that is similar to the Gauntlet. So I'm not sure, maybe it was bugged on the PTR, but the monsters basically stopped scaling their level after tier 100. And also the health difference wasn't really, you know, noticeable. So I'm really hoping that they are changing this. So yeah, generally the pit offers too little challenge. It would be great to scale it way higher than 200. Like, why is there a reachable cap at all? Then we have the shrine problem, just like in early D3, blast, and just like in Abattoir of Zir early on, and also in a degree in the Gauntlet. Blast Wave and Artillery Shrine are way overtuned. They are scaling their damage with the monster level, and they are just way too strong. Like, you know, if you have a hard content here, like, you need to tune down these shrines or something, or do something with them, because right now you just click at Blast Wave Shrine, it one-shots the boss. It one-shots the hardest boss in the game. You just go to it, Blast Wave, boom, dead. 500 million damage. That's it. So I think it needs to be tuned down or balanced around these shrines, or the shrines need to be removed. At least these two. And then, yeah, add a more convenient way to exchange masterworking materials. You literally had to click 100 times to exchange 100 materials into another material. So we have this awesome technology. We can just type 100 instead of clicking 100 times. I don't know why they're not utilizing this. I think this is like a console problem again. You guys remember console gold trading? So you could not just open 100 bags at a time. You literally had to click 100 times to open these bags to convert the materials. So there needs to be a better solution here. Just type in the number, man. Like XYZ, I want to exchange 1,000 mats for X amount of other mats. Then we have the current group scaling rewards. This is, many people might not know this, but this is how it looks right now in the game. Some people tested this. So yeah. So a solo player received the highest amounts of masterworking material. Each player in a two-man group receives 33%, 66% for the person that opens. So if I want to, you know, group up with my friend, I open the run, I get 66% of the mats, and he only gets 33% of the mats. In a 4-player party, let's say you want to, you know, play with like a group of friends or something, the host gets 40% of the loot, and every other player gets only 1/5 of the efficiency that he would get if he was running alone. So this system is insanely nerfed towards group. Like, you're only getting 20% of the loot if you're playing in a group. And I think with Diablo being a social game, I'm all for solo players having a buff, right? But why does if you're playing in a party, why do you have to get 5 times less loot? It's completely insane to me. Like, it just strongly discourages anyone from grouping up with their friends. Like, why would you ever want to do this with your friends? And I think it's just sad because, again, Diablo is a very like open world, like very social game. The co-op, like the multiplayer stuff is amazing in the game. And okay, I'm all for like give solo players like a 50% buff, but don't nerf the loot to 20% of the original. Like, divide the loot by 5 if you're playing a party. I think it's way too overtuned, this kind of scaling. Then I had this happen to me a lot of times. Dying after the pit boss has been defeated. So there's like the Lilith and the Inarius and like a bunch of like cool things happening that you have to dodge. But this also happens after the pit boss has already died. Like, multiple of my runs I've done where I killed the boss and then I was already picking up my loot and then some ground effect or something killed me. We have this protective bubble in Nightmare Dungeons, and maybe they could just add this here. I can imagine in hardcore in particular, this is going to be a huge issue where you just die while you loot because, I don't know, like Lilith decides to 5 seconds after the boss died, still cast a wave or something. So maybe you can add a protective bubble or something. Like, you should add a protective bubble into the game. That would be pretty cool. Then the checkpoint system. So when you die, you get I think a 60 seconds or 90 seconds time penalty if you die multiple times. But the checkpoint system basically steals you another minute from that. So I think the checkpoint system in Diablo 4 in general needs a look at. And it would be very cool to just let us spawn at the location where you died. Like, you die, you're on the ground, timer goes down by 90 seconds when you click revive, and you spawn right where you died. Like, I don't understand. Like, sometimes I was in level 2, I died, and it spawned me back at level 1. So I think that thing is just like completely ridiculous. So just let us spawn at our corpse. I think that would be kind of cool. Then this is a bit controversial. Like, I think it would be cool to have leaderboards similar to Diablo 3 Greater Rift leaderboards. Like, we have this leaderboard now for the Gauntlet system where nobody really cares because it's just speed focused tier 70 runs. You know, like, it's just like, I don't even know why there's a leaderboard for the speed runs. Like, I would much rather have a leaderboard for the actual end game content. This is challenging to your character. and challenging to your build in terms of viability and DPS. If in fact the pit is supposed to be a hard endgame content system. If it's supposed to be, a speed system, which it is right now, then I'm just saying we already have the gauntlet for that. Why do we need it twice? Then we have Tormented Uber bosses. So I think in general, it would be very cool to make them harder. Similar to a Lilith fight or, something where you actually have to do mechanics. Like later on in the feedback here, I go over all the, strong builds. Let's look here at a non-broken build, like how he kills an Uber boss. Like, is this how the Uber boss fight should look, guys? Like you walk up to it and you just cast your nados, and the boss is dead in like 10 seconds. This is how it looks right now. For every class has a build like this that is that strong, that just like instantly kills the Uber boss. And I think they just need to be tuned up a bit. There's many of these. Like I can show you like another one here that is not necessarily bugged, like just really strong here from the Sorc. So you can see here, this is like the Sorcerer killing the Uber boss as well. Like this is the hardest boss in the game, and you just like walk up to it, you shoot a couple fireballs like for 10 seconds or 18 seconds here in this case, and yeah, he's dead. Or other builds that are broken completely one-shot it. So I think the obviously like some of the power level I feel need to come down, but also a lot of this kind of bosses, they should actually have some mechanics, just like Lilith fight, that you actually have to play the game and you have to dodge and you can't just stand there and just one-shot him. So I think that would be very essential to just make these are supposed to be the hard boss, Uber boss. They are supposed to be hard. And I don't think you're supposed to kill them in 5 seconds or one-shot them. So yeah, maybe they can bring down the power level or something, because on top of all this, what we've seen here, on top of this crazy damage, we are still getting the Season 4 theme, which is definitely going to buff our damage even further in some way, right? So we're going to be even stronger than this. So I'm not really sure like if the power level is right there. So there's also very little incentive to actually do the Uber version of the bosses. Like they don't even drop the materials here. I included this as well. Like I think the bosses should drop 5 times the materials of the Uber version. Like if you kill Uber Varshan, you should be getting at minimum at least 5x. Right now you get 0 or 1 maybe. So I think like yeah, like if you're doing these bosses that unlock other bosses like Varshan and Greg and like these kind of bosses, just have them drop 5 times the materials for Duriel and Dariel as well. And yeah, maybe there's also a cool thing where you could add a Resplendent Spark. So many people thought that this is already how it would work. Where you kill the Uber boss, you would get 1 Resplendent Spark. But right now, the way it works is there's 6 or 7 Uber bosses, and if you kill any one of them for the very first time, you get 1 spark. I think it would be way cooler if every boss for the first kill in a season gives you 1 spark. So it's a count-wide, right? You do the season, any character, and you kill them the first time. It's like an achievement, you get 1 spark. And I think this would give you 6 sparks total if you manage to kill all of the 6 hardest bosses in the game. But then again, we're actually fighting the hardest boss in the game, and you are getting, 1.5 Uber uniques out of it. And I think you should. I mean, you're literally fighting the hardest boss in the game, and you should be getting the best loot in the game. So this would allow you to get 6 sparks or 7 and craft 1.5 or 1 Uber unique. So I think that would be pretty cool. It would give a strong incentive to experience all the fights and learn the mechanics and things like that. Again, you don't have to do them. You can still just do normal Duriel and still get the Uber uniques, the old-fashioned way. But I think adding 1 of them as an incentive to kill them all at least once per season would be pretty cool. And then, yeah, there were some bugs of the Endariel fight here when you kill her too fast. Okay, Helltide, I think, and actually I should say this, I'm mainly focusing on constructive feedback here. Like there was a lot of things that I really, really, really liked about the PTR. I think the game is going in a great direction. So I just wanted to make that clear. Like this is just, the things that weren't that good yet, right? This is supposed to be constructive feedback. Not just, yeah, this is great, this is great, this is great. I'm more like, you know, focusing on the things that aren't so great yet, in my opinion, that can still be improved. And Helltide is amazing. I think the entire system is great. There was only one bug with it, where your Helltide progression meter can be carried into the next Helltide and, like, you know, procs even more Helltide. I think I had this happen here in my video, where you can see it in action here. You see my progression meter does not go down because it's completely bugged out. And it's just a bug that they have to fix. So this is just like mainly like a bug report. But I already sent this over. Then we're looking at class balance. And this is mainly for Barbarian, because that's the class that I mainly played. You guys may have seen my streams. Like, I have played, I think, over 100 hours just Barb. And then maybe I played like 5 hours of Druid doing one build. But yeah, I mainly focus on the Barb feedback here. And yeah, there is a lot of things to say about class balance, but yeah, the Dust Devils are just quite a bit overtuned at the moment, to the point. I mean, I like having fun. I like Barb being strong, but you know, you gotta admit, guys, that this Dust Devil with the current size is a problem. Like, you see me here, like, this is on the first day. I just went into the hardest pit, and this is like just the amount of twisters that you're just getting is just ridiculous. You know, like, you just go in, and it spawns like an infinite amount of twisters that also do insane damage. And it also causes game FPS issues, lags, drops. People at the world boss have been crashing. And it basically just does not encourage anybody to, you know, play with a Dust Devil Barb in a group, because you just can't see shit. You don't even see what you're doing. So they need to bring down the visuals, and they probably should bring down, you know, like, it looks awesome. They should probably bring down, you know, the size maybe a bit, or I don't know, the amount of twisters or something. It's just a bit too overtuned. And I have actually a separate video talking about all the overtuned builds, in my opinion, that I'm going to be linking in the description. I published that one yesterday. So yeah, the next thing here is the Elemental Surge. Like, this one is also in here, like Generator, Elemental Surge, Barbarian, and also other builds are extremely strong. It's like this lucky hit chance that you can get on your items. If I'm just going on some of my Barbs here, let's just go on double swing for a second. And there is this proc that you can get on lucky hit. I think it does, you can see here, it does 23,000 damage. On a two-hander it's 46, and you can double this to 100,000 damage if you masterwork it. So this is just way too much, because a normal weapon, you know, has like 3 to 5k damage. And this thing does 100,000 damage on a lucky hit. It's just way too overtuned. And yeah, there's a bunch of builds here. Like, again, like, check the video. Don't want to go into all the details here. There's a few bugs here with Barb. Like, there's a visual effect on Hammer of the Ancients, and with the Ancestral Force, and on Upheaval with Hellhammer. The Earthquake duration, this is actually a common thing that I saw. Like, in general, there was a lot of effects that increased the duration of certain effects. And the general problem with that was that if you increase the duration, and this is already happening with the ring here. So you see the Ring of Ravenous, it increases the rend duration by 3 seconds or 4 seconds. But the problem is, it does not increase the DPS of the rend. So, you know, rend reads as follows. So rend reads, you deal 16 direct and 125 bleeding damage over 5 seconds. But now what happens when you choose that ring, or increase the duration, you still deal 125 damage, but not over 5 seconds. No, you do 125% over 9 seconds. So it literally just does what it says on the item. It only increases the duration. It does not increase the damage, the total damage, or the DPS. And this is probably also the case for Earthquake. Earthquake duration didn't even work, but there was like many other effects that I've witnessed this on. So it only increases the time, so it can actually result in a DPS nerf, because, well, doing 100% weapon damage over 5 seconds is actually better than doing 100% weapon damage over 9 seconds, right? So yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it's like a negative effect. So I'm not sure like what they're going to do with this, but they should also increase the DPS accordingly, in my opinion. And then some Barbarian feedback here. This is like Barb specific. So we have a twin strikes. So first of all, these gloves don't even have crit chance. So that is like really weird. Like having, you guys know, like on gloves you can actually have, I think, up to like 30% crit chance now with the new system. Right now you have 12, but with the new system and with greater FX and masterwork, you can have 30% crit chance. And these gloves don't have it. So they have attack speed, lucky hit, damage, additive, and double swing ranks. And I don't know, it's like kind of weird. And the effect is not even that strong. And also the extra double swings do not proc your twisters. They don't proc Windlasher. So I don't even know, like I thought this item, you know, kind of was made to combine it with Windlasher. But it doesn't even proc it. So to me, these gloves are just dead on arrival. Even if you're playing like a double swing build, you would never play it. Kind of sad. Then the leap animation has been changed for the worse. Like there was like some problem with it when you land, that you get stuck for a few frames unless you animation cancel. So it felt very clunky on the PTR, while the leap here on the live server feels fine. So you should definitely be able to move instantly after leap and don't have to wait until it finishes some animation or something. Then we had the Gore Devastating Grasp. So we had the Whirlwind size. Maybe I still have the video here. So this, I'll show you this real quick. This is the new Whirlwind size that you have. You see here, this is the new Whirlwind Barb. It has pretty good size, like with the size increase. But there is this like Whirlwind unique called Gore's Devastating Grasp that creates an explosion after the Whirlwind ends. And sadly, I tried this one does not scale with the size of Whirlwind. So you have this big Whirlwind, but your explosion is still this teeny tiny circle. So I think it would be really cool to enable this to also work with the size. Whirlwind is already a weak build, and I have this in my wish list as well. I would just love to see a viable endgame guild with Whirlwind, because Whirlwind itself just doesn't deal any damage, man. Like it's just like it's like one of the weakest core skills in the game. And here, okay, it works in Helltides, but if you you know, if you ever played Barb and you try to do a Whirlwind in a high tier, like it's just horrible, especially against single target. I think it does, I don't even know, let me remove this. Let's look at how much Whirlwind, yeah, it doesn't even deal 17 damage, man. It deals 16% weapon damage. 16, less than 17, dude. It's like a support only skill at the moment. And you see, my generator does fucking 33%. Whirlwind does 16. Not even half of that, man. Like, isn't that sad? And that's the reason why Whirlwind is just like super weak right now. And so I think like making Gores work with it. And this is on my wish list, man. Like, just maybe you can buff the pure Whirlwind damage to make it a viable endgame build. Like all Whirlwind is at the moment, after all the nerfs that happened on launch, is just a support skill. And I don't really think that does justice to the spin to win fan favorite Barbarian build, at least in my opinion. Then we have the new Ancient item. So they made a new item for the Ancients, and they also buffed the Ancients themselves, Call of the Ancients. But this still is very underwhelming. I think the item here has pretty good stats. Max life, ultimate cooldown reduction, which is like 10% or something. Pretty good. Main stat damage reduction, which is hard to come by in the new patch. But the second effect is really, really weak. It basically almost does not deal any damage, and it's just very underwhelming in general. Like this pet Barbarian build does not work at all. It's probably about the same power level as Whirlwind. So it's very weak, and even if you combine it with the Ancestral Echoes, it's this one here. On lucky hit, you summon an Ancient. I was like kind of thinking, you know, you can combine this too. So you summon an Ancient on a lucky hit. Go to the target dummy here real quick. I think I might even have this. But like basically the way that I was hoping this would work is, you know, you leap, summon an Earthquake, right? And then if your Ancient guy also leaps, it would summon Ancient Echoes, it would also summon an Earthquake. And this kind of works, but the problem is it has like a huge ICD and it can only like happen once in a blue moon. So you see, you cast my Earthquake, and then if I had my Ancient or the lucky hit effect, that this guy would also cast an Earthquake whenever I cast one. But no. Like literally, I cast 10 Earthquakes, and then my Ancient like randomly decides to cast one of them. So it's like, I don't know, like maybe they can make it so it mimics your Earthquakes or something, because the Earthquake wasn't really a strong build anyways. And I think all the other effects, like I've tried Upheaval too, I didn't really try Whirlwind all too much, but Whirlwind is weak anyways, as we just went into. So I was kind of hoping that, you know, here our boy Korlik creates an Earthquake that deals physical damage over 4 seconds. Like I was like thinking like maybe he can leap whenever we leap or something, but like, and then it would also proc our Rumble Glyph and give us an extra 10% damage. But yeah, it only procs like 1 Earthquake every, you know, 5 seconds or something, while you are proccing like 2 Earthquakes per second. And it's just like not worth sacrificing like 2 slots for, because you need the Ancestral Echoes and you need the Pens, which usually are Type's Will and like an offensive like Edgemaster or something. So you're losing a lot and get nothing basically, or get almost nothing. So I really like, this is basically also, in my opinion, that on arrival new unique. So again, I really hope they buff the Twin Strikes and they buff the, what are they called, Ariad's Bearing. And yeah, then maybe an option could also be like, we have pretty high damage numbers in the game that we can see, you know, like instead of showing 1,000,000 damage, show just 1M, like the shortcut of the number. I think that would help a bit with the screen clutter, because the screen clutter, especially in, you know, the current builds that we have, and with the twisters and stuff, like there's just, you know, like an insane amount of numbers that are happening. You can see here, like, it's already a lot, and I mean, right now I don't have damage because this is on a live server and this build doesn't work yet. But you know, like this kind of thing, like this is a lot of numbers basically. And yeah, that's basically my feedback. I know I've been, you know, criticizing a lot of the things, but overall, man, the patch is amazing. Season 4 feels amazing. What we've seen on the PTR is such a big step in the right direction, and I can't wait to play it. And also, I'm super happy that we have a PTR, because there are a lot of broken builds here that, again, I made a separate video about, that are just there, man, completely decimating the game. And we've kind of had this like beta live testing like the past seasons, and I'm just so happy, and I hope they stick with this, having a public test server for upcoming changes, especially if the changes are as significant as this. I think the community feedback from all of you guys is, from everybody, is just invaluable. Like having these kind of things and having us test it. We do it for free, right? You don't even have to pay us. Like we just do it for free. We test these kind of things. We take hours and hours for testing, and then hours and hours of giving feedback from many, many different sources. And I think they have really something good cooking here. And if they continue down that path, I'm super excited, like, for what Diablo 4 has to bring, and for what especially the expansion pack towards the end of the year here, the Vessel of Hatred, will have to offer for us. I'm very much looking forward to it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the overview. Again, the link is going to be in the description for this feedback. I hope you share your feedback too if you have some. Let me know in the comments, post on the forums, report bugs, give feedback. Let's make the game better. Hope you enjoyed the overview, my friends. Take care, I'll see you soon. GG. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.